Well, unfortunately, this will be deer number 2 for the old Dodge pickup. All right, well, today we're going to be trying to reconstruct the front end of this Dodge to be, I don't know, good enough for somebody. I don't know if that person's me. I kind of want to sell the damn thing, but I do have a spare core support bumper, radiator, trans cooler, not a spare AC condenser, but nah, whatever. So I think we just got to disassemble this shit. I'm also noticing that, well, that water pump is making some funny noises and it's almost acting like it's shoved back a little bit. So that's not ideal. So I'll have to do some looking on that too. But the first thing is we just got to get all this shit out of the way. Turns out I was correct. This water pump does not spin. That's kind of important. You kind of need that to spin. So I'm gonna do the right thing and go grab the water pump out of the old motor and then buy a new gasket and, you know, not buy a new water pump because fuck that. Next thing, I got this clutch fan off of here just because I knew it would be a pain, so I kind of wanted to do it right away because this water pump does still rotate enough to be annoying. So should just be spin that off, and there we are. Now, as you can see, that's not very optimal. So yeah, we're gonna have to take a bunch of our accessories off and shit, and that'll all be fun. But anyway, now we have more access to everything. Thing that is a little bit, you know, almost unbelievable to me is I was just gonna take a Sawzall to these goddamn AC condenser lines because I figured I'll just Sawzall them and pinch them shut, so at least it protects the rest of the system for whenever me or somebody else tries to put an AC condenser back in. Well, fucking decide to go and pop this and still got fucking AC in it. I don't know, I don't have a way to catch all that Freon again, so that's really unfortunate. It's like, you know, 20, 30 bucks of Freon that I'm gonna lose, but Jesus, that's kind of impressive. I almost wonder if you fucking hammer that flat, if it'll actually work. That might be the option, is just fucking take a goddamn AC line off and just kind of see what it does. I mean, if you just take a fucking board and try and flatten that shit and remount it, I wonder if it would work. So now we are good to disconnect the AC condenser now that we have properly vacuumed it out into a approved AC machine. And then I'll have to disconnect that condenser, I think, soon. It might be worth it. We probably should just get this fucking front bumper out of the way and see what we're working with there. But I just want to make sure. I doubt for what little it ran that it would have worn through any, like, a water jacket or anything with this water pump. But, you know, you never know. That would really suck because that would pretty much stop this whole thing in its tracks. But we're just going to do the water pump once we have all this shit out of the way anyway, so it's not like we're going to lose anything by waiting to put it back together. You get the point anyway. So I think next I'm going to have to lay in this puddle of crap on the floor and disconnect all the bumper bolts. So we got this bumper half off. There's one more nut on that side that I'm having some troubles getting out because it got bent and wedged between a part of the frame. So I'm gonna have to do some thinking here on how to make that work. Finally got that bumper off. Actually, the frame doesn't look too bad. We have this front cross member which really just needs to be pulled out and re-welded. That isn't really that important. We got to straighten out where these bumper bolts go. Not too difficult. So I think I'm just gonna end up hooking a chain up to this, pulling this out. We got to get this core support out of the way as well, and then at that point drop the new core support in. We're gonna have to do some massaging on that fender, and really this shouldn't be too hard. So it looks like in terms of actual damage here, like I said, all we really seem to have, I don't know how badly all this is really tweaked, but it's just this front cross member, which we should just be able to pull back out and just weld back up. I don't even think that needs to be super straight, honestly. So I got our water pump surface prepped here, just used a wire wheel and tried to clean this up as best I could. Probably gonna use some silicone on that. These 4 bolts do also go into the water jacket, so don't forget to put thread sealant on those if you do it. Otherwise, I did put a chain on this and bend this out to be mostly straight, kind of tried to hammer on that fender a little bit. I'm gonna throw that water pump on, probably throw the belt on, and then we're going to probably dismount the radiator from that core support so we can maneuver that core support a bit, but don't have to, so we don't have to be quite as careful, and yeah, see if these core support mounts line up, because if those do, then we're basically home free to throw this thing back together. We got the water pump tightened up here. Should be able to put the belt back on. Probably gonna wait till later to put the fan back on. Then we can move on to figuring out if we can bolt that core support up. And once we figure that out, then I'm gonna go ahead and finally weld these up, throw a quick coat of paint on. You know, really doesn't matter that much, but might as well just, like I said, throw a weld on those cracks, and then, yeah, should be good to put it back together. Probably, hopefully try and get the bumper to align somewhat, even though that's probably gonna be all fucked and shit. So yeah, there's gonna be a lot of fucking around and massaging with this one. We've got this core support basically lined up and locked up. All the bolts are in for that fender. You know, all this shit's kind of tweaked and funny, and you got to put a lot of pressure on it to get bolt holes to line up. Well, anyway, the worst part about this whole thing is that how much this is bent out. Now, I've my concerns on how that's going to line up with a headlight. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we'll figure that out when it comes to that. First thing is we got to hammer this back close to be able to get it to line up with all these bolt holes. All right, so I've got the core support completely tightened down here and everything lined up. So I think the next thing is I'm gonna weld up those couple cracks in that frame, throw some quick spray paint over it. Not gonna be too particular about that. And then basically we just gotta, you know, put everything else back on. This is what we got so far. I don't think that bumper is quite straight on there, but that all sounds like an issue for me to deal with tomorrow. I think I might just end up oblonging those holes to drop the bumper down rather than trying to hammer on that frame, because I've already done that with the last bumper before I hit this deer, because it hit a deer before. And I'm just kind of sick of dealing with it. So I think I'm just gonna modify the mount on the bumper to make it drop down, and then that side could obviously go up just a tiny bit. And I think that will actually get us close enough. But as the next day, I got a new fan shroud that I'll be putting on later, and I got a headlight of sorts to use. And now we're just looking at basically what exactly we need to fucking bend in and modify to make all this fit. So what it looks like, first thing is we need to kind of bend and bash this fender more than I've already bashed it. Maybe just cut that little stupid fucking lip out. Do something like that to make it fit over here. And it looks like I may end up just bashing in the radiator core support right there, since that's already bent anyway. Might need to punch it in right there just in order to clear the fucking edge of the headlight. Up the bumper down, we did a bit more massaging with a hammer. Now the actual mounts for this shit don't line up at all, so I think we're just gonna self-tapper those two, and that other one over there does. Of course, later we're gonna have to fucking replace that turn signal deal there, but that's no big deal. So yeah, I think then the next thing is, before I mount this, I'm gonna have to solder the connector that I took with this headlight bulb for the turn signal. I have to solder that on because it was fucked up on the other one, so. Shouldn't be a big deal. Go grab some self-tappers and see if I can make this work. For this headlight, I actually ended up just making 2 tabs. You can see where I already self-tappered into one. Probably could have drilled and tapped into them, but man, it's not that important. And got that one ground down, about ready to drill and tap, but I'm gonna wait for that to cool down and throw some paint on this so it doesn't immediately rust away. So we ended up getting all these self-tappers in, got everything lined up to where it really should, where I think it should be. So I think now we're gonna move on to trying to get this bumper on here relatively straight, so then we can pretty much just button everything up. Now the way this is working out, the bumper's sitting way too high on this side, and I think the first thing is I just need to cut this tab straight from there to there, just because of the way this is bent and deformed. I will maybe weld on some other support later, but I think that's what needs to happen right now. So what I ended up doing was cutting that mount and dropping it down a few inches, welding it back together. And then that got that, you know, that kind of has got the bumper in the right spot. It's a little bit too far down, so I'm jacking it up with the floor jack, and I'm about to tighten all these bumper mounts, and we should be actually, the bumper should be in the ballpark of where I want it to be. All right, well, I have all the bumper bolts tightened for good, so this is gonna be where this bumper sits. So I think next we can start shoving the radiator, the fan shroud, and the clutch fan back on here, and should be actually getting pretty close to getting this thing done and over with. The bumper's on for good. I forgot them side supports that go from there down to the frame, but now we've got it all in there, so I'm about ready to put our brand used fan shroud in there. Then we can throw our radiator in there, and yeah, the last thing is I'm probably gonna have to remove the hood. I don't have a second person to help me put on the replacement hood, but that'll be fine. The step is to put our our original one that came off of this originally trans-cooler on. I, you know, replaced the core support and everything with one that was less bent than this one at one point in time, and this trans-cooler I don't know, it just looked was a little bent. There really wasn't anything wrong with it other than that. I think I'm gonna need to probably take the line off of that trans cooler because it looks like it may have leaked a little bit. Then we'll throw this trans cooler on and then throw our condenser on and just for shits and giggles, suck that down and see if that holds anything. If that does, then that would be fucking hilarious. I'm not expecting it to, but that's all besides the point. We don't need AC anyway. And then, yeah, we should be able to fill it up with antifreeze and be really close to actually being done with this thing, except for the hood, like I said. Now this trans cooler is fully mounted, so next thing is we got to get our washer fluid tank, our overflow tank, and our AC condenser on. This is the end result. This grill is kind of smashed in because it was the one I had originally on this pickup, and I removed it because it was smashed in. But otherwise, that AC condenser is actually holding some refrigerant. Don't have it fully charged yet. I'll probably do that later. But yeah, everything's good. That'll be it for this. Kind of just put the camera down and got the last of it done. But yeah, we've got, you know, doesn't look great. Of course, you got this shit all flopping around and shit. But yeah, I'll have to zip tie that up or something later. And yeah, that'll be it. All right. Future me here, letting you guys know during this little clip here that the AC condenser, as of months in the future, still holding a charge, somehow survived allegedly hitting a deer at 90 to 100 miles an hour. I don't understand how. I don't know if I explained. I literally just stepped on it to straighten it out and mounted it, hooked it up, still works. So I've got a couple more things I decided I wanted to do. I really absolutely hated the look of this fucking crushed in grill, so I just kind of ripped it off today. And I think what I'm going to do is I got some wire mesh, and I'm just going to cover this a little bit in some wire mesh. So, you know, cover this right here and go down to here, kind of cut it out. And yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Hopefully spray paint it black, but I think the first thing I kind of want to try is get that fucking, all this shit out of here. But yeah, I need to kind of weld up this here, get this whole little frame thing. I got to weld. I could rivet that back on maybe, or weld this, but this kind of support for the hood thing is fucked up. And yeah, I just kind of want to put some wire mesh over this and just have that be the grill, because I think that looks better than having the stupid crushed in Dodge grill, whatever. So we're gonna start on that. And then I also have a light bar that I kind of want to mount, so you know, I got it for cheap, and you know, I want to be able to see the deer. So yeah. All right, so I think I've got this braced up good enough for what I'm doing here. So now I think I'm gonna try and cut out some wire mesh and just stick that in there and see if I can, you know, make that look somewhat decent. So now we got that grill finished up and drying up there, and now I'm going to mount this light bar. I've already made some tabs, and I've got the rough spots that they need to be lined out, so I'm gonna hopefully put this up there and tack it good enough to, you know, for it to stay or something like that. All right, so we've made our brackets here. They're welded on. These are pretty much cold to the touch, so I think I'm going to throw a coat of spray paint on that so that it can dry as quickly as possible. Then we're going to start wiring it up. Now, to wire it up, first step, I've got a switch right here, and that's running to these two wires. I am using speaker wire because it's cheap and it's simple. So then we're going to have to wire this switch to a relay, and then have that relay, you know, get wired to the frickin' light bar. Should be as simple as that. Nothing too complicated here. Just yeah. You know, if you understand how a relay works, anyway, it's not too complicated. All right. So now the next thing is I've got our fuse holder right here that is feeding these this 4-way solder joint I made. One of these wires is the power feed that's going to go to the relay right here. This is going to be our switch for our relay, and then we've got this, and this is going to be our main power feed. I'm doubling this up just in case, you know, this isn't necessarily great wire. So anyway, I've got heat shrink just waiting for this solder joint to cool down so I can then shove the heat shrink over it and make that a nice, decent looking joint right there. Solder joint, that is. Right, now we've got the thing running, just to recharge the battery, but yeah, we just kind of got to aim this light bar and it should be pretty much good to go. It's all wired up nicely right here, you know, as good as I can get it with fucking speaker wire, so should be pretty good. Now that everything's finalized, this is the comparison. This is high beams, and that is light bar. See if I can get a picture of it outside here. Well, anyway, that'll probably be it for this video, finally. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.